Hello everybody, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch. Today we are going to do two things. First off, we're going to look at the brand new AppGameKit Studio that should be releasing just about right now. I've been working with a pre-production version of it that's very close to final, and this is going to be going on sale at any time. Now I'm going to both look at it and then do a bit of a crash course tutorial so you get an idea of what the workflow is like and learn how to get started using AppGameKit Studio. Now if that name sounds familiar, that's because this is built on top of AppGameKit from the game creators. Now I actually did a closer look at, which is kind of like a review and getting started tutorial series that I've been doing at Game From Scratch, kind of profiling game engines. And I looked at it back in July of 2015. AppGameKit's been around for quite a bit of time now. And for the most part, it was this interesting framework. It's got kind of two scripting languages. They've got their own AppGameKit basic style programming language, and then they have a tier of C or C++ programming either above or below, however you want to look at that. So if you wanted to work with C or C++, that is an option, or you can use their simplified script. There's like 1,000+ commands in there for everything from graphics to 3D to augmented reality to in-app purchases, you name it. If you probably need to do it, there is an implementation for it somewhere. Now what it didn't have, however, was any kind of a level editor tool. And in a game engine era where you're competing with Game Maker Studio or the Godot game engine or Construct or similar other 2D game engines, not having a world or a level editing tool is a bit of a problem. And that is exactly the problem that AppGameKit Studio kind of gets around or solves. This is AppGameKit Studio, a natural successor to AppGameKit. Now you can see here it says pre-order now, but theoretically I'm doing this a little bit in the past. It should be up for sale right now. And we're going to just basically take a look at the studio, show you what you could do. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of depth about AppGameKit itself. That is available right here, but we are going to see the basics of using it in action. So without further ado, let us jump on over to the AppGameKit IDE. Now there is a full step-by-step version of this available over on DevGame. It will be linked down below, along with the resources we use in this particular example. Now I'm going to go slightly out of order from the version that you see on DevGame, just because I'm going to do the introduction second after I create a new project. Simply because this is a virgin install, there are no assets here, and it's kind of hard to show you around when it's not populated. So we're going to create our project first, and then I'll give you a bit of a tour of the IDE. So here you are when you first launch it. This is 0.95. It should be the same as the 1.0 release, maybe a couple of bugs squashed, and it should have a Vulkan backend renderer at the 1.0 release point. So here we are in the main IDE. We're going to go ahead and create a new project. So go up to File and say New Project. Pretty straightforward so far. Name it Super Wonder Project. This is going to be painful if I can't type today. And you can name the folder wherever you want. You can explore to find it, but as long as it's not empty, it will be created for you. And there you go. We just created our very first AppGameKit project. Very straightforward and simple. Here you can see the basic style programming language that is used. Zoom that in a little bit. So here you can see the code that we're dealing with. Pretty straightforward and clean. You can see it's a bunch of kind of straightforward commands. Things like, create your window, create your resolution. And then here is your main game loop. And all we're really doing here is printing the frame rate over and over again each time we run through our loop. So you see there it is. Our frame rate is kind of it's actually being stapled to 30, as you can see from this call right here. So if you wanted to get rid of that, you could get rid of that line there and it'll immediately update. Or if you don't want to display the frame rate at all, we can just kill that line from our code. All right, so there it is, our very first simple project. Now what I'm going to do is right click here and say Open in Explorer. See, we got our media folder here. And what I just want to do is head on over to here, grab the assets I'm going to use in this example, and then just dump them into our media folder like so. Now, if I click on our media folder, you will see the list of media over here in our media files area. You can filter down, so if I only want to show textures, we can show just textures. If I want to show just the sound files, we can do that as well. Or we can show everything that we are dealing with. So now we need to get into some kind of a visual editor. And to do that, we're just going to go ahead and create our scene. So what I'm going to do is right-click the root of our project right here and say Add a new scene. We're going to call this My Game. And we're going to create the scene like so. And now we've got the world editor. And this is pretty much the heart and soul of AppGameKit Studio. So this is a world placement thing. And this is actually ultimately a code generator that we will see in just a second. Now, the nice thing here is this is heavily focused towards mobile development. And you'll see here, you've got a number of different resolutions and previews you can work towards. So there is, for example, the resolution for an iPhone X, iPhone 4, We could do, for example, an iPhone 6, and so on. You can zoom in and out. There is the resulting layout. Or we could do landscape, portrait, iPad, you name it. We'll stick with an iPad's design resolution for now, but as you can see, you can set it up various different previews. You can also have multiple different projects open and switch between them. In this case, I only have a single project, but you can see it's pretty simple to switch between projects, or in fact, if you just open the project or a file from the other project, it will automatically switch over. Here you've got your scene manager. We're gonna see this in much more action later on. This is kind of the list of assets in your scene, and it can be used to enter something called draw mode, which you'd use for if you were, say, for example, using a tile-based map. You can have the various different tiles and paint them over. Over here, you've got asset browsers. You can add folders in of different resources right here, and then they'll be available. You can click them just like you click your media folder, and they will be available down here for your usage. Over here, you've got massively integrated help. So you've got a choice when you can go through the basics of the language itself, like so. You can navigate back up this way. We need a list of all of the various different commands. So for example, if you're working with sprites, you could drill into the sprite section. You see all the various different functionality for dealing with sprites, and then you click down into something, you will get a full description of said sprite. So that is the basics of the editor. There are some more cool tools here. You can run directly right here in the viewport mode. You can broadcast out to a foreign device. We will do that a little bit later on. But now let's get down to creating some level stuff. Oh, I suppose before I continue, I should also show, you can come up here, go into view, you can turn any of the various different windows you see around you on or off. So example, if I wanted help to be gone, I could close it down this way, turn it back on that way. At the same time, everything is tabbed. You can float it, you can dock it side by side, or you can dock it existing, or you can split existing dock, or you can drop it into another tab list. So it's very customizable, also very multi-monitor friendly. Nice thing is it also is high DPI aware. Okay. Another thing that I know is very popular is dark theme. So if you come on up here, you can change the font and you can change the color theme, both of the editor itself between a dark, a light, and a classic style, and then the code editing, which we will see in just a second. You can also switch between dark and light. There are also some settings in the settings area where you can change the font and the configuration and so on of your editor. So now that we've created our level, we can go ahead and start placing entities in our level. For example, we want to have a background. Literally just drag and drop. You can now position it this way. You can have the grid turned on or off, and so on. And then we can come over here to the properties. This is the property of the sprite we just created. So I could call this background, like that, for example. And then you've got direct numeric controls here as well. So we can go ahead and position that guy in the world. You'll also notice it is now shown in the scene manager, both the list of scene media, right there, there's background, you can see it is named, and then you can see a version of the image, and we can do rapid painting now using that instanced image if we so wished. And that's kind of the extent of it. Now the cool thing is we can also do layered stuff. So if I switch here, we can drop in these stars over top, and then we can layer things on top or below using this slider right here, or once it's instanced, and once we've used one single copy of it, I'm going to go ahead and delete that instance out of the scene. You'll see it's still available over here in the scene manager, and we've got direct layer mode here. So we could say that we'll put this guy to the middle back, like so, or we could set the value for middle back right there. And then we can paste that guy in the scene. If I wanted to paste a bunch of them, we could do so because we are now in something called draw mode. We'll look at draw mode in a little bit more detail later on. But as you see, you can have layered support. You can have things draw on top of other things. It's quite simple to do. But now that we're back in select mode, I can also grab that guy and get rid of it. I got rid of the wrong thing. All right, let's do that back. Let's bring our seamless background back in. There we go. All right, so let's put this guy at 0 and 0. So that is how you go about creating the basics of your levels. We'll also look in a little bit about how to do a sprite sheet. So again, if you're using a tile map or something similar, it's also fairly easy to support. You'll also notice that everything has like this widget control. So there's your corners. You can move and resize by grabbing it corner to corner. Same with down here. Each side has a controller that you can pull from. And then right here, you have a rotation control option right there that you can use to orbit the scene around. Or you can also do things positionally here using the properties window if you so wished. So that is how you place objects in your scene. Now we want to probably go ahead and create a main character of some form. We're just gonna go ahead and drop that sprite into the world like so. And again, if we wanted to have a bunch of them, we can literally paste them around. Now, you'll notice this guy's really, really small. That's because it's set to fit sprite size to grid. Now, that makes a lot of sense if you are working with a grid-based game of some form, like, again, a tile map, and you want to draw individual tiles this way. Or you can do full size like this if you want to have a whole bunch of the player character in the scene, which I do not. I actually only want one, so I'm going to undo all of that. I'm going to exit out of drawing mode, so I'm back in selector properties mode. We're going to pick our main character right here. Up here you will see it is called Sprite 6. Now this is the name as it is represented here in the world list. And I'm just going to change that guy out to main character. And actually, I'm going to stay consistent with my text version, so let's do that. We'll name it to match. 1 second. Oh yeah, I called it player. All right, player. And then the most important part is this part right here, unique variable. And this is how you're going to access the player in code. And you'll notice it automatically prefixed my game underscore in front. So now we've got this guy, we've got a character in our world. You'll notice here, so far we've been working on this .scene format. There's a toggle over here between script and 2D. This is actually generating a script. So you see here, this is just a code generator. So if you wanted, you could actually author things in here, export out the scene file, and use it with AGK Classic. So the AppGameKit, the existing one, perfectly compatible. Now, obviously, if you want to edit or work with scenes, you're going to need this guy to really work on them. If you want to switch back to scene mode, once again, just click 2D, and you are back in scene mode. So now that we named our player, let's go ahead and add some simple logic. We're going to go back to our main project over here. Here is our game loop. So now what we want to do is just, we'll update this character. So we're going to call a command set sprite, and you're noticing here we get full IntelliSense completion, which is very nice. We're going to set sprite X, and I called this guy main play. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm jumping ahead a step, because first off, we need to let this guy know about this scene. So how is he going to get this information? How is this code that is being generated right here? So again, we'll go back to the script mode. You see it's generating code that controls everything, including setup code, etc. How do we bring this guy in? Well, we go over back here to our code, and we do a pound include. You'll be used to this one if you've ever used the C++ preprocessor. And then we'll call it, what did I call that guy? MyGame.scene. So that will import MyGame.scene. And then what I'm going to do is from MyGame, you'll see we're getting IntelliSense for it. So first thing we need to do is a setup. So this will configure our graphic scene. And then each pass through the loop, we'd call basically the game loop for that scene, or the built-in sync call. So this will update that scene every time. So now if I go ahead and run this code, you will see, boom, our scene is now loaded. Whereas if I took this guy out of here and we run this code, oh, actually I got to take out the setup too. Let's go, okay, right here, run this code, and you will see we are back to having nothing. So that is the code for, this is how you hook up your scene. By the way, you can have multiple scenes in a project, and you can switch between them accordingly. So you could have a conditional, like if on the menu, or running the game, or exit credits, and then call this thing and display for each thing, or you can unload scenes as you no longer need them. So you can have multiple scenes in a project, by the way. You simply just go ahead and create another scene. All right, so the scene is now being synced each loop. So now let's go ahead and actually update our character within that scene. So once again, set sprite X. Nice thing is we're getting that that completion. Everything is identified by integers. And when we name this guy, we call it mygame.player. So again, that is the unique value. So go back here to 2D mode. That is this guy right here. So that is going to uniquely identify that instance of that sprite in the world, like so. So we're updating that guy, and we're going to get its current X coordinate. So my game player again, and then plus 1.0. Like so, very simple code. We'll go ahead and run that, and then you will see our character is slowly moving and updating every frame. Pretty cool, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. So that is your main game loop right here. Here is how you bring in the scenes that you create inside of AppGameKit Studio. Nothing really too hard yet. So now let's go ahead and use some input handling. Now, the way we're going to do this, we're going to take advantage of some of the functionality that's built in. Nice thing is they have an on-screen controller support that we can also piggyback. So basically, if there is a real controller attached, it will use that. Otherwise, if it's on mobile, it will use the on-screen controller. Otherwise, it will fall back to keyboard handling using the WASD keys. It makes handling input probably about as easy as it can get. So let's get a variable in here to actually handle, so vertical speed, as float. I should be able to type right. Float equals 5.0. Again, if you've ever done any basic or Visual Basic or kind of similar scripting, this will be a no-brainer. Otherwise, basic is about as simple as it gets to actually learn these kinds of things. So we got our setup call. We now need to do a little bit more configuration outside of our game loop. So set joystick screen position right there. And that is going to be at 100. Get virtual height. Yeah, height minus 100. So we're doing it 100 off the bottom of the screen and then 90 in from the right. Okay, so that is, 90 size. So that is the size of our controller. It's 100 from the 100 pixels in, 100 from the bottom and on screen. And that should actually be enough for if we run in this in mobile version. Now, you're not going to see that on the desktop version until we run it remotely, but I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And now we can check if get virtual joystick exists, and we only got one of them, so 1. We want to do some logic, so we're going to say set virtual joystick visible. Set the first joystick to visible as true, and then we're going to create a button for it. Set button screen position 1, get virtual width. What did I do? Minus 50. We will make it 100 by 80. Set virtual button size. Again, joystick 1, button 1, and we're going to set it to 150. And then set virtual button text to fire. Like so. All right, so this should create a virtual button on screen. You can go ahead and run this code like this, but you are not going to see that because we are the mobile version. So instead you use WASD keys and spacebar as the first button. But if we were running on mobile, you would see it. And now I'm actually going to go ahead and showcase one of the really cool features of AppGameKit is that you've actually got a mobile running version. So here is my phone, which I put here somewhere. All right, so let me just fire up my phone. And we're going to cast it to reflector over here. Oh, I missed. Now I'm casting it, Chromecasting it to my connection downstairs. So let me just try that again. So let's connect it to my computer instead. All right, so here you go. Here is my phone, literal screen being run. Don't judge me for playing Elder Scrolls Blades. It's not that bad. And I'm going to run the AppGameKit app. Now, there's one of these available for iOS, and there's one of these available for Android. You are seeing the Android version. I'm going to switch here to landscape mode like so. And now let's switch back to AppGameKit. Okay, are you set to always on top? All right, let's not go full screen. There we go. So we switch back to AppGameKit, and you'll notice here, and now what you're seeing is my actual phone running. So I'm going to broadcast out to the phone. So this will send the app over to the phone, in theory. So broadcasting. Not currently connected, so give me 1 second. And there you see it. It is broadcasting over to the mobile device. So you can make a change on the one hand and automatically broadcast it out. You'll notice here we have our fire button. Down here we have our on-screen joystick that is touch enabled, like so. So you can easily deploy it to your mobile device that simply. Okay, so now that we've got that going, I'm going to go ahead and stop casting, so be right back. Okay, so we have it. We can easily deploy it out to our mobile devices using the broadcast functionality. We can run it on screen with the on-screen controller. Now let's update our do loop here to, or our main game loop here to actually handle the virtual joystick. So this is, after synchronizing both. All right, so I'll put it right here. Virtual joystick handling. And we're just going to do y-axis movement equals get joystick Y. So the nice thing again is I can use the keyboard or on-screen controller or an actual joystick, and it's going to be handled universally through this same interface. So what we did right there is pulled, the Y-axis of our joystick, and then we'll just check either up or down, so plus or minus, ABS, the Y-axis movement absolute of it is greater than 0.1, so we don't have a dead stick going on. So if we have any movement, then what we will do is say sprite x equals get sprite x, and then it is my game underscore player, like that. So we just get the x value of the player, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the y value, like that. Okay, so we get x and y of the player, and we'll do set sprite position my game player, and then to sprite x, and then we're just moving up and down based off up and down movement. So sprite x y plus, and then vertical speed times y axis movement, like that. All right, so that in theory should do it. Now all I need to do is end my if statement out like this, and finally we'll do a quick test here. So if get button pressed 1, so if we press our button, we'll just go ahead and print out boom to the console. All right, so let's see if I did any typos. That was a fair bit of code for my standard. So there I'm hitting the W key. You'll notice we're going down, and then the other direction, and we're going back up. And at the same time, I'm gonna just go ahead and get rid of this code for incrementing our speed, like so. So we're gonna stay in place. But as you saw, I was using the WASD keys there to handle things, and the code basically just works. So that's how you would implement up and down screen movement. Once again, if I had a joystick hooked up, the joystick would be working just fine. And then here I'm hitting space, and you're seeing boom, boom, boom. All right, so that is simple input handling. Pretty straightforward so far. Now we're gonna add a tad more code here. We're gonna give the ability to shoot to our character. So we're showing you the basics of scripting, nothing too special, but we'll come up here under vertical speed. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new type. Call it bullet, and then end type. So just a data structure for holding type or for bullet information. So x as float, y as float, alive as integer, sprite ID number as integer, and then image as integer. You're going to find that a lot of the IDs, etc., very straightforward in this guy in AppGameKit are, it's just index or integer based, makes things very easy to track. So now we need a function here for actually creating bullets. So let's create our bullets. We can have up to 5 bullets. And obviously you can change this to however you want. So end of our function, like so. Let's go back to the beginning of the line, enter down. All right, so dim bullets, 5 of them as bullet. So that's our newly defined type. You'll notice IntelliSense worked immediately. Now what we need to do is bring in a bullet. Now this is actually kind of cool. So I'm directly in the code editor so far right here. Right here in my code. So this line right there, I'm gonna go down here to the media files. There is the bullet we wanna use, and I will just dump that guy in, and you'll see that just basically loads up the code for getting our bullet graphic. Easy and straightforward. All right, perfect. So we now have our bullet to work with. Now I just wanna loop through let's see, I equal 1 to 5, next I, and then what I want to do here is bullet, I pluraled that, right? Yeah, bullets, I dot x sharp, we're just defaulting everything out. So 0 bullets at I dot y sharp equals 0, and then bullets dot I dot alive equals 0, which we'll do as nope, and bullets at I dot sprite ID. So we're going to give this guy a unique number. We're going to start our bullets at the value of 100 or 1000, so they don't clash with anything else. So we're going to have bullets of, with an ID of 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and obviously 1005. And then finally, the image to use for the bullets. You could have bullets use different graphics if you so wish, but in this case, we're all going to use the same one. And this is just the ID of the bullet we just loaded. So image yellow bullet 11. All right, so there, we just created our create bullets function. So we can now create bullets in our world. With that done, let's go ahead and create some code for firing bullets. Function fire bullet, give it a location, and function, just bring that back. All right. And now we need a sound effect to fire. Same process. Boom, that loads in our laser sound effect from our media files. Like that, the ID is then ready to work with. Current bullet equals 0. Again, we have a maximum of 5 bullets firing at an individual time, so we're just going to loop through them, find out if any of them are not currently alive, in which case we will use that. So, loop through our bullets. Oh, that is not going to work. Let's actually declare that. So we're going to loop through the 5 bullets so we know we have. If bullets at, oops, I dot alive equals 0. So a dead bullet was found. Current bullet equals I. All right, so we're just gonna loop through all of them, and then once we find one, we're good to go. So come back here and if, and then next I. All right, it's very straightforward code, really. We just look through for the next available not dead bullet, and if we find it, we assign it. If we've got over 5 bullets going, then we do absolutely nothing. All right, so that looped through. So now we say if current bullet is not 0, and if, all right, so there's our logic. We found a bullet, our bullet is good to go. Now let us go ahead and do something with said bullet. So now we want to do a couple things. Oops, darn, just a sec. First things first, we're going to want to create a sprite at the point that this bullet is fired. So we go ahead and do a create sprite call right here. Now remember, bullets at current bullet dot sprite. Okay, bullets at current bullet. And we want the sprite ID of it, and bullets at current bullet dot image of it. All right, so we're going to create a sprite for that bullet, and then we shall go ahead and position our newly created sprite. So set sprite position, and the sprite is once again current bullet. Ooh, that's not going to work. Let's go back here. All right, current bullet like this, and then this is the ID of the item to set, so sprite ID, and now we need to set the position, so X and Y. These are being passed in obviously to fire bullet up here, and then now that it is set, we're just going to go ahead and do a couple of logic things. Current bullet dot alive equals yep, bullets dot current bullet dot X equals the X value passed in, and bullets current bullet dot Y equals the Y value passed in. And finally, now that we've positioned and created our bullet sprite, we will also play our sound. And the sound was loaded earlier. It is called Wave Laser 1, and that is about it. All right. So that will create a bullet at the current position when we fire it. Let's check to see if this is actually working now. So first thing is after our setup call, after we add our joystick and before our game loop, let's go ahead and create our bullets. So now we have bullets that are ready to use. And then here we will switch this out to fire bullet. Okay. And that would be, well, we'll just put it wherever for now. So let's do this at 100.100. We'll come back and change this later on to be the location of our actual sprite. I just want to make sure all the code that I wrote is actually valid. So up and down still, there, spacebar, you hear the shoot. And now we have 5 stacked bullets all on top of each other. Exactly what we wanted. Things are amazingly actually working first run. So no typos. I'm rather impressed with myself. So let's change this logic out to, see, I guess I got to go get sprite X. So we want the X position, my game player, right, like that, plus I guess get sprite width, my game player, and then, I don't know, 20. That's probably about right. See if that logic works. It should fire to the right side of our character. Oh, yeah, my bad. All right, so get sprite. Forgot to offset it. Y my game underscore player. So as you can see, the code is very straightforward, and then we'll add about 20 to it. So that should be about half of the height of our, yeah, that'll work. Change that out, maybe 30. All right, so yeah, the guns will be on top. That'd be about where we'd want it to be. Now you're noticing our bullet isn't actually doing all that much. We got the sound effect going. We can create up to 5 of them before it stops. Now we want to put some logic in here to actually do something with the bullets. So we'll do that next. Come back to our code here, go to the end, and we'll go function update bullets. So end function. All right. So there is our code. Now what we need to do is for I equals 1 to 5. This should probably actually be a variable that you control yourself. Oh. Next, I. All right, so we're going to loop through all of the bullets. If bullets at I dot alive is not 0, so if the bullet is alive, then we want to update its position. So bullets at I dot X equals bullets at I dot X plus 10. Obviously you could script that out as a variable being bullet speed, but this is straightforward and easy enough right now. So set sprite position, and then it's bullets at I dot sprite ID, bullets at I dot X, bullets at, I can't type, bullets at I dot X, and bullets, I still can't type, at I dot Y. All right, so update the position of our bullet, and then finally, if get sprite X, our bullet, it's I dot sprite ID. So let's get our current sprite's value like that, and if that is greater than get screen bounds right. So if our bullet went off the right side of the screen, like so, then we want to go bullets at I dot alive equals die. And then let's delete our sprite. Bullets at I dot sprite ID. All right, so all we're doing there is basically we're checking to see if our bullet went off the screen. If it is, we're going to set it to dead and then delete the sprite for it. And this will now make that available on the next pass. So now all we need to do is in our logic for our main game loop here at some point in time, update our bullets. So now we run our code and we have up to 5 bullets. And as they start going off the screen, we get new bullets back. Pretty clean, pretty straightforward, not that hard to work with. And really, you've got the crux of a complete game here. I'm not going to go into a whole lot more detail. We're already coming over past the half an hour mark. The last thing I want to actually just show you here is Sprite Sheet. Now, Sprite Sheet handling in this are relatively straightforward and relatively simple. So if we want to go ahead and add some asteroids to our world. So if you want to, carry this out a little bit more, you'd add some hit logic to your update bullets to see if they hit the asteroid. If it hit an asteroid, cause that asteroid to explode. But in the meantime, what we are going to do is show you how to actually create from a Sprite Sheet sheet. So you see here, we've got this sprite sheet opened up. You'll see it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 asteroids in a single graphic. At the same time, this could be tiles for a tile sheet, like for a tile map or whatever. That is what we're going to use. We're going to switch back over to our game scene, be in 2D mode, and we're just going to take this guy and we're going to drop it in the scene, but off screen. So we now have this sprites available. You will see it was added to our list over here. Simply select it and then right click, and you'll see you can say set up sprite sheet. So bring up a simple dialog. It's the number of rows and number of columns. So that is 1 row of 11 columns, and we will say add sprite sheet. And now you will see we have a number of different asteroids we can add into our world. We can change out, so I'm gonna switch into draw mode. We could switch out to a different layer if we so wished, and we can just start pasting them into the world. So once again, you're gonna probably wanna make sure that fit to grid is not on, and we can just start adding sprites into our game world, or sorry, asteroids into our game world, like so. Again, you could use this if you did have this guy turned on. You could use it for actually snapping into your prearranged grid and have it basically set up like tile maps, like so. And as you see here, I can rapidly draw them. They're all being instanced as I go, and you can use this mode to rapidly paint. Again, we can turn that back off to make it so that they come out their full size. And then again, we can turn snapping off like that. And that's how you can quickly paint and populate your world using draw mode and sprite sheets. Or again, any of the instant sprites can also be drawn this way, like so. And essentially, that is it. Now, do keep in mind, this is the 1.0 release, and not 100% of the functionality from AppGameKit is available in AppGameKit Studio, and I also haven't showcased everything. You've also got abilities here. I didn't show you playing music, and I didn't show you using full-screen GLSL shaders or GLSL shaders applied to sprites, which are both pretty cool, but beyond the scope of what I want to cover today. That is literally actually it. I hopefully gave you a pretty good impression of the capabilities here. A couple things I haven't showcased. There is full debugging with stepping mode support available over here. You've got call stacks. You can update at automatic frame rates. You got step in, step over, step out, and so on, like you would expect from a normal debugger. And yeah, essentially that's it. You know, world-class help. You got some nice tools here for switching between things based off of, straight to certain variables or function definitions in our code. So you got jumping in that way. It would be nice to see some updates here for, say, for example, code folding and a couple of other features. But for the most part, you've got a full-blown normal text editing experience. As you saw throughout this, you've got pretty solid code completion. You've got nice documentation and help support. At the same time, you've also got context resolution. So if I go here and say set virtual resolution, I can hit F1 and you'll see it will look up in the documents and find details on that. Coincidentally, if you come back here, you will also find there are a ton of examples showing you how to do just about everything that we just showed here. So that is AppGameKit Studio. It is basically an IDE world editing tool, scene creation tool, coder, and debugger that are built on top of AppGameKit. Let me know what you think if you were just starting out with AppGameKit. Hopefully this little introduction to create this very simple and now extremely cluttered game. Hopefully there was some value there. Hopefully you get an idea of the game making process. It's very easy to learn. That's one of the big strengths for the AppGameKit. It's also nice that all of the stuff that you saw here in BASIC is also, there is a version in C, and the documentation actually covers in both languages. But AppGameKit Studio itself is optimized around the development for using the BASIC type language. And as you saw, it was really ultimately just a code generator. So as we are creating our levels, it is writing more and more code and instancing things in the scene. You see it's actually written quite a bit of code, but it's an easy to use tool. It doesn't corrupt, it just seems to work. I'm pretty impressed, to be honest. So that is AppGameKit Studio. Is it worth picking up? Well, that's kind of a hard one. It really kind of depends on you, your needs, if you like the language, if you like the approach it took. It's well documented, and if you are using AppGameKit Studio right now, this one's kind of a no-brainer. So basically, this is AppGameKit Studio with much better tooling on top of it. It makes it more of a competitor to the likes of Construct or GameMaker and so on. So yeah, that was it. Let me know in your comments down below what you thought. Again, there is a text-based step-by-step tutorial that covers basically exactly what we just did right here, including these resources that we used if you want to follow along at home. And let me know what you think in the comments down below. All right, that's it for now. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.